That's right, he's gay now. Finally, right? Yay, we can throw parades. We can all dance in the street. Yasuke Gay is gay now. Isn't that wonderful? Aren't we all excited that he's come out of the closet as a dead man? A dead man since the 1500s, mind you. Okay? Yasuke was not of an age where he likely made it into the 1600s. If he did, it was very, very early into the 1600s. And that still doesn't change that he's dead. This is what Ubisoft has decided. They're like, this guy is a real person in real life. And guess what? We're going to make him gay now that he's dead and can't defend himself. It's going to be great, guys. It's going to be a great game. This comes to us from Raptor. This guy did an interview with the devs or someone up in the middle part of the Assassin's Creed Shadows group. All right? Remember we saw those blue hairs? Likely one of those. And he says this. He has this to say. Both Yasuke and Naue have unique romances, so different characters they can romance instead of the same characters, which again, like in the past, there have been romantic entanglements within Assassin's Creed. The same-sex romance is back for both characters, which, again, you know, this is a thing that keeps repeating itself. Like, make up your fake characters, it's fine. Making Yasuke gay is wrong, all right? That's very wrong. He's dead. That was a real person that you can't ask if they had an opinion about that, okay? In fact, Yasuke probably had some of that forced on him. You understand? Consider maybe the real man, right? As he lived and breathed and walked upon this earth, consider that maybe he wasn't down for that, but it was done to him anyway. And now, so many hundreds of years later, people with the same skin tone are doing it to him again. But this part I found particularly funny. Yasuke can't wear a hood. Yasuke can't wear a hood. You notice that? Yasuke can't wear a hood. Why? Why can't Yasuke wear a hood? You know, the Assassin's Creed hood is white, and there is an American group that wears white hoods and has a problem with... No, they wouldn't be that fragile about it, now would they? They wouldn't go and, like, make that so he couldn't put on the hood so he didn't look like a clan with a K, clan member, you know, with their pointy hats and the eyes cut out like Halloween ghost bed sheets, those guys. Or maybe they didn't want him going around looking like Trayvon Martin. You remember that kid with the Skittles and tea that ended up biting it in the middle of the night? Yeah, maybe they didn't want that to happen. I don't know. But it's a very silly, silly thing to have in your game where you can wear all sorts of things. You're an assassin. You're supposed to, you know, choose your style. But Yasuke cannot wear a hood. Only Naue can. I wonder why. What a particularly strange thing to do. Anyway, back to what's actually going on in this game. It's true. The Game Rant produces this. It says, Assassin's Creed features same-sex romance options. You could still have heterosexual options in this. Don't get me wrong. They're not forcing you into having homosexual relationships. That's not what they're doing. Okay? And again, like, I can't give them grief over making that an option, but I fail to see the point of that in an Assassin's Creed game. You know, I didn't play Connor as a character that had a romantic entanglement. When I played Assassin's Creed 3, he was just a guy that wanted to get revenge on his dad and the Templar and put an end to the nonsense that was happening because of the Templar. He didn't really have a problem with the American revolutionaries even, and he wasn't having sex with them either. But let's scroll down and see what they have to say about this. It says, Ubisoft officially revealed quite a few new details about Assassin's Creed Shadows in a recent interview, including confirmation the upcoming game will feature same-sex romances. But the way romance in general will be handled in Assassin's Creed will be slightly different compared to the last few entries. Same-sex was featured in both Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Odyssey. The latter offered 14 romanceable characters, while the former had a dozen of them. Each game allowed its respective pair of protagonists to get intimately involved with any of the romanceable characters. So, again, this has happened before, right? Not my contention. I don't care. I don't play this series anymore, right? I have maintained throughout this whole experience, as I've been reporting on this, that I checked out of Assassin's Creed at number 3. I didn't find number 4 interesting, and I didn't come back to the franchise. And thank God I didn't, apparently. So what the situation is here is that my problem is that they are making Yasuke gay. That's the biggest problem here. This man was a slave when he arrived in Japan. And by the accounts of most of the Japanese citizens replying in our comment section, feel free to go back and look through our coverage on Bounding into Comics here of this Assassin's Creed Shadow situation. There's a playlist you can go back through. Check out the comment section. You will see Japanese citizens here offering their testimony as they know it in their native land of what Yasuke got up to. Most of them tell me that at best he was carrying a very ornate, beautiful, well-made dagger. Something a little more graduated than what Naruto walks around with. I understood him, I could be wrong, that's why I say understood. I understood him to be a sword bearer for Nobunaga. This is an honorable position, but it is in no way makes you a samurai. And it certainly doesn't make you gay. Okay? But it gets even more inflammatory. They're running defense for this insanity. Yeah, like, they're not even pausing to say that this is wrong to do. So here we go. We've got the gamer. Not to be confused with game rant, as you can see. It's not the same thing. It's the gamer, despite them having the same branding colors. It makes you wonder if maybe they're connected in the back, but it doesn't. Oh, I did that, didn't I, with my fingers? Anyway, back to the article here before we get into that weirdness. So why is Yasuke queer, though? Okay? It says, it would be reductive to say the ridicule from these players, which is, me and you that aren't okay with this, is simply because queerness is included. The focus is on the fact that Yasuke specifically is gay. The discourse has shifted from Yasuke wasn't a samurai to Yasuke wasn't gay. No. We're upset about both of those things. We're still upset about both of those things. Don't get confused, the gamer. All right? That's 2 things on a list now, not one thing replacing another. All right? And now that's several things on a list, by the way. Let's remind you again, like if you haven't checked the previous video out or any of the others yet, they stole Japanese iconography and imagery. Now, why that matters is that these are protected things in that country. You can't just cash them in for money. And so that's why Ubisoft is in trouble. They even admitted to this. Their own Twitter page, their own Ubisoft Japan came out and acknowledged the theft of the Sekigahara Rifle Corps flag. And then in the same post, you guys, in the same post, they said, we're still going to sell it. We're still going to sell this stolen stuff. That's what we're going to do. So no, the conversation hasn't shifted from Yasuke wasn't a samurai. That's still part of the list of grievances that, so far as I can tell, Ubisoft and weirdos like the gamer keep adding to. It keeps getting longer and longer and longer and longer. Firstly, just searching the phrase samurai gay will lead you to countless pages about homosexuality in Japan and how it was actually a common practice for older, experienced ninja to train younger warriors and take those as a lover, if the younger warrior agreed. I'm pretty sure this is pederasty, but there you go. They have been artistic representations, and there have been, rather, artistic representations and records of homosexuality in Japan dating back to the 1500s. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. It's not confirmed either. No, is it? Nobody out there has wrote down, and Yasuke liked the peen. Nobody wrote that down. Nobody said that Yasuke is into men. Nobody said that. Not a soul. There's so little information about Yasuke, we're not even sure if he comes from Africa. Thomas Lockley knows all about it and likely contributed to this narrative too. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if among those edits to Wikipedia that are now lost to time, we are likely going to see, if they're ever uncovered, maybe, that he was inserting ideas that Nobunaga, a respected regional lord in the history of Japan, Nobunaga is probably in the order of like importance to Japanese society. He is around the level of an American founder. He is part of the unification of Japan. He is part of the opening up of Japan to the West. And he is also part of the philosophical progression of Japan. Now, again, Nobunaga, not a saint, not a guy that walked around and did amazing, wonderful things, no water to wine. He did not make the blind see. He did not make the crippled walk. He was just a man that had a particularly open mind about what was happening in his own country and how he could use that to his advantage against other warlords. And in this way, he made himself available to the West, and thus, this is how Yasuke came into his ownership. It's been expressed to me in the comments below by the Japanese citizens I mentioned earlier that Yasuke was not an equal to a lord. He was not granted any type of sovereignty outside of Nobunaga's control. And some even argue in the comments that Yasuke was a circus animal. All right? That he had no ceremonial importance, that he wasn't even a bodyguard, that he wasn't even an intimidation factor, that he was just an oddity that Nobunaga drug around with him to say, look what I have that you don't. Okay? And this is not to say that Nobunaga was a slave trader or something else that Thomas Lockley and David Adkins are going around insisting the Japanese were a part of. And we'll produce a video on that soon. Don't worry. I'm still doing research on it. It's not that I don't trust the story that's being told to us by the Japanese. It's that I need to make sure that I get the whole picture of this so I can explain just where all of this actually got started, because Lockley and Adkins are not inventing this themselves. They're building off of some crap in the past that I need to find and get my head wrapped around before I make a video on that insanity. And to clarify, what I'm talking about is that the historian behind making this guy into a samurai, Yasuke, into a samurai, Thomas Lockley, that guy, okay, is now going around in Japan insisting that the Japanese were part of the African slave trade. Now, I don't know how that happens because the Africans on the ships weren't exactly comfortable and kept, safe, if you will, on their travel from Africa to parts of the Atlantic. Now you are telling me they are leaving the Atlantic and traversing, I presume, the bottom part of South America, down at the Cape there, the Horn, or something like that. That's the Horn of Africa. Sorry, I got the wrong thing. Anyway, they're going back up around, then clear all the way to Japan and the Pacific, which might as well be a whole half planet away from Africa where they originated. So it's a little hard to believe that they were stacking them up the way they were, packing them in like sardines the way they were, and then trucking them all the way halfway around the planet. Like, I don't buy it. I'm sorry, and there's no evidence to sustain this. There is not a long-standing history of the Japanese owning African slaves and parading them around, as Thomas Lockley and David Adkins want you to believe. Furthermore, if that was the case, there would be a significant African population that had been born in the lands of Japan, and this is not the case. Look at what happened in the USA. Look at what happened in all nations that kept a sizable African slave population. They stayed, and they became citizens, and they integrated into the culture. Okay? That's what happens in that scenario when they are liberated, emancipated, if you like. Okay? So now, let's backtrack to what Lockley's claim is, right? That the Japanese participated in this, which it's not documented. There's no physical evidence to even suggest that. In fact, what we seem to understand with Yasuke is that in the 1500s, he was likely the very first African there. If anything, he was probably the only one on the Japanese islands at the time. This is not a common occurrence. There were not a lot of Africans in Japan. So we'll work our way back to this now, this gay thing, okay? So I wanna stop right here, though. Remember, we read this right here. that the practice of older, experienced ninja to train younger warriors and take them as lovers if the younger warrior agreed. Now, that last part feels tacked on to try and make it okay. This whole scenario is wrong. It's wrong and it's disgusting on its face. Did that happen? I'm sure that there were people out there that were twisted, that took advantage of their students, just as they do in the West. All right? We hear about it all the time in the news. Teachers getting too friendly with their children, with their students, right? We hear about it all the time with religious institutions, having corrupted individuals within there that are taking advantage of their authority. All right? And that doesn't mean every last one of them participates in that. And that doesn't mean that it's prolific, meaning it was the standard, okay? That's not at all it. This is disgusting to sit here and suggest that sanctioned warriors, that people that Nobunaga and other regional lords, even the emperor himself, appointed to authoritative positions within their military, were abusing children. Sexually abusing children. That I can't even describe to you how evil it is to go back and be like, not only was Yasuke gay, but the samurais were pedophiles. Okay? I don't think that's in the game, and God help Ubisoft if it is. I can't tell you the kind of hell that will rain down on those people if they dare to try and suggest that the samurai as a standard were pedophiles. This is ridiculous, you guys. Think about this for a minute. This game and the atmosphere around it is attempting to reshape ancient Japan into this hedonistic hellscape of sex, death, violence, torture, and abuse. It's completely disgusting, by the way, to have people running around screaming and hollering about racism this, prejudice that, colorism that, all this crazy terminology they invent to marginalize and divide people, right? To break us up from having any unity between each other. It's bad enough that these people who accuse other people of being evil are perpetuating this now on a culture they don't belong to. You saw the dev team in the last video, not a single Asian man on that team, not a single African man on that team, whether he be from North America or other places. Same for the Asian man. It's all white women. There's like 2 dark-complected girls, and I'm not even sure are African. They could be South American for all I know, because people get around the world these days. You understand? This is insane to sit here and have these people in Quebec, in Canada, telling the Japanese BT dubs, you're sacred warriors, the most iconic thing about your country. Yeah, they were pedophiles. I can't even think. I'm so angry right now. I tried to get through this video 4 times already. The first 3, buddy, I would have blown your eardrums out. This is hell and gone from any type of fictional history or, we don't really care about your history. We're telling an alternate history. This is hell and gone. This is now declaring that historically, that factually, adult samurai, adult warriors sanctioned by their lords, by the emperor, were abusing children as a standard. Someone, please, if you are watching this in Japan, please get this to Mr. Satoshi Hamada immediately. They are spreading around the world that your samurai, the sacred warriors of your culture, the military that settled the disputes in your lands, the people who held order when there was chaos spilling from every corner of your lands. They're telling them that they're telling the world that these men abuse children. They're telling you that as a standard, they did this. That it wasn't just a random happening, that it wasn't the act of evil, that it was a regular and respected institution of the samurai. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now. If they go and Japan says we cannot have any more Ubisoft games, I'll tell you. I'll be the first in line to say you're right. You're absolutely right. Ban them all. Burn them in the streets. Melt the DVDs in the streets and then deliver it that husk of plastic shaped into a big old middle finger, whatever it is, right into the front parking lot of Ubisoft Quebec. Because this is evil. This is flat out evil to go around suggesting that there was child abuse inside of this institution, inside of these very honorable, regimented men. The Bushido talks about not creating more evil in the world. What the hell is hurting children? My anger comes from a place very deep inside of me. The Bushido is something that I respect. In Japan, it is something that some people feel holds their country back because it has a very rigid expression of how to live your life. It is a rule, it is basically a set of rules on how to conduct yourself in a righteous manner that would allow you to be able to not only have the moral authority to enact justice, but also to have the internal authority to know that the justice you are enacting is in fact justice. The Bushido in the West is not used as an authority to enact justice. Here in the West, it is used as a way to take control of a man's life in a way that he then has a stable system to look to. He has these rules to say, I will not create more chaos. I will not speak out of turn. I will do everything in my power to bring glory to the people I respect in my life, and I will become that which is respected, and I will be worthy of that respect. I will work every day to master what it is in front of me, that I have chosen to be my vocation, to be my focus, to be my passion, and I will burn brighter than the sun doing that. The Bushido discusses these things. These are my words. I don't have the Bushido right in front of me to quote word for word, but the Bushido talks about living a very righteous life, and nowhere in it does it mention hurting children. Okay? Nowhere in it does it mention hurting children. Does it mention having anything to do with that realm whatsoever? And these are the guiding rules of the samurai. So you'd think if there was any funny business where, go out and have some fun with some kids, right? That would be in the charter. That would be right there that says, young people are tasty. But it's not. It's not there. Because the Bushido is about righteousness, not selfishness, not self-serving ideas like abusing children. But it is what it is, right? We have Ubisoft is going to move forward with this. God forbid they put any of this pedophilia stuff into the game itself. Okay? God forbid they do that. It's bad enough that they took Yasuke, a man who was likely abused in this manner, who was likely sodomized, all right? Not by Nobunaga, I doubt it. It isn't, sodomizing didn't, in my recollection, was not used as a form of domination and punishment by the Japanese. I've never run across it. It could be, maybe I've not ran into that chapter yet. But the Europeans, the Middle East and Africa, Egypt, North Africa, all used it as a method of punishment, domination, and destruction. Vlad the Impaler put pikes up people's backsides, clear up through their faces, okay? This is not a practice germane to the Japanese. That I know of, okay? That I know of. So when you go saying that Yasuke, a man who was abused, most likely had this practiced upon him as a method of punishment, or his owners decided they wanted to do that to him for whatever reason that possessed him to enact that act. It may be that he was tortured in that way until his free spirit was broken. they don't consider the history behind this. They don't consider why people have such an adverse reaction to seeing certain acts between same-sex individuals. Okay? There was a study done a few years ago that men react to seeing other men kissing like in the same manner that they react to seeing maggots. It is an uncomfortable thing because it reminds us of a time when that method, when those acts were used against our will. Okay? As men, it's in our DNA to resist this sort of thing. Not everybody. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that gay people are acting out some ancient fantasy, some inlaid thing into the DNA of them. That's not at all it. Everyone's got a different theory on this, right? I'm not saying mine's 100% true. But what I'm saying is history, over history, sodomy was used to dominate and punish men, okay? I don't know about women. I don't know. I don't read a lot about sodomizing women. I'm sorry. I don't read a lot about sodomizing men either. But as I go through history, I find it come up quite a bit in the Atlantic region as a method of torture. It's chiefly as a method of torture. Okay, and that's likely something that happened to Yasuke. So now this gaming company has stepped out and said, we're going to make him gay. He may have been harmed against his will in this manner as a living man, but our fictional Yasuke, he's the big gay. Okay? The large gay. I'm really just trying my best not to just blow up right here, okay? I'm so sorry. My thoughts are all over the place. I'm not gonna make this video a fifth time, I'm sorry. The fifth time around, I'm gonna go Super Saiyan again, and it's not gonna get done. So this is the most peaceful version of this video you're gonna get, and this cannot be allowed to continue. Please get this information to Mr. Satoshi Hamada. Also, if you feel like you can get something done with your local senators here in the US, that they may have an interest in Japan, please, for the love of God, reach out to them and let them know what is happening. We're not Canada. We don't have control over Ubisoft, but if our government recognizes that this kind of evil is being practiced on our little brother Japan, which in my opinion, that's what we are, we're brothers. We have Japan, who is smaller than us in its military power and size, obviously, and then America, who is the hegemony, if you will. And when we are in concert, when we are working together, there is great peace, right? And so that's what needs to happen now. The U.S. needs to step in and say, leave my brother alone. Stop pushing this on my brother. I will not allow you to lie about my brother nation. That's what our country needs to do. So if you feel that your senator, representative, somebody who can put a phone call in and say, hey, what are you up to, Ubisoft? If you feel that you know somebody that can, jerk that chain, please reach out to them and explain what is happening with the theft, the rewriting of Japanese history, and also now this, that apparently they're spreading around that the samurai were harming children as a standard of their living. As just the norm of how it is to be a samurai. Okay? That needs to happen. Because if Japan can fight for its culture and win, so can we. And if we can pull our culture back from the corporate grip it's in, boy, that would be a miracle. But you know what? Crazy things have happened so far. But this is evidence of how far they're going to go. How long until we find out that George Washington was doing evil things that they just invent out of the wind? That they just decide one day that Thomas Jefferson was abusing children? How long until we find out that Abraham Lincoln... Well, apparently there's a new movie coming out about Abraham Lincoln being gay. This is what's happening. Culture, history, none of it matters to these people. It's all a gray blob that they can mold into whatever phallic shape they wish. But until the next one, guys, good luck out there.